It's been an ongoing battle between the Charleston carriage industry and the Charleston Animal Society over the safety and concern of the horses and mules in downtown Charleston. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sat down with Joe Elmore of the Charleston Animal Society. Here we sit at the Charleston Animal Society here in North Charleston, and you've been headline news for, I guess, a year now. I've seen you on television or heard about you in the radio or in the newspaper. As we sit here right now, what is it like to be you?
Well, I can tell you I'm very proud. I'm very proud of our community, Charleston Animal Society, which is the first animal organization in South Carolina and one of the oldest ones in the nation, and is considered a national model of success and life-saving. We have come a very, very long way. It's for 5 years in a row now, Charleston Animal Society, out of the more than 10,000 charities in South Carolina. Together, South Carolina, I believe, says there's more than 15,000 charities in South Carolina. But for 5 years in a row, Charleston Animal Society has been the most honored charity in South Carolina. The integrity in this organization and the credibility this organization has, both within our community and nationwide, is something for all of us in Charleston to be very, very proud of. Something that a lot of folks don't realize is that how law enforcement relies on us as a private organization with expertise in animal cruelty and veterinary forensics, assist law enforcement in holding folks accountable for animal cruelty cases, such as the Quintin case,
right,
or such as the case, for example, just last Friday, I was with Sheriff Al Cannon at a press conference at the Sheriff's office, and we were discussing the latest investigation of a case up in Allendale area,
right,
of a canine that was deceased, the carcass was burned, etc. It's still an ongoing investigation. We have probably about 5 other investigations that are active and we're currently involved in. And there are probably about another 4 investigations or cases, if you will, that we were active in, but those cases have not come to court yet. So a lot of folks don't realize that. Something else is that we were able to build the first no-kill community in the Southeast, and we launched No-Kill No-Kill Charleston in 2015 and 2013. That's a 3-year initiative.
Okay.
Senator Tim Scott helped us announce that, if you will, and then we were able to achieve that in the first year. Something that a lot of people said could not be done in the deep South, this part of the South. It was a real struggle, but we're very proud of that, and we've gotten national recognition that as we speak, you're breaking news. You will be the first one to know because we haven't issued this press release yet. Is that Maddie's Fund, a leading educational organization in animal welfare nationwide. It's out in California. Funds universities, funds organizations, etc. They have announced the Charleston Animal Society as a national training venue for apprenticeships and fellowships in executive leadership management. And so that's really big. That's a lot of folks coming to Charleston that to learn from us, so to speak. We've also brought 2 conferences to Charleston, and one was to train other communities in how to replicate the veterinary science initiative that we developed here. And it was has gone out to, I believe it's up to about 21 communities, if I'm not mistaken,
okay,
and across 7 different states, including California. But we've done webinars, for national webinars with ASPCA here recently and before. We had the first one, over 300 people worldwide attended, as far away as Spain and Australia, to attend that one, and folks all across the country. So we're becoming a leading educational organization in animal welfare too. But the name says it all, Charleston Animal Society. It's about all animals, and there's about 6 different animal groups. You know, you have mammals, you have reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, birds. We're about to launch a collaborative campaign with the Audubon Society of South Carolina called Let 'em Rest, Let 'em Nest, which will help educate folks about the importance of shorebirds along our coast, and to try to get it. Where we come in to it is that Audubon Society is trying to get to dog owners who take their dogs to the beach to discourage them from chasing the birds and migratory birds and disturbing their nest. So you have two types of birds. One's going to be nesting. Others are basically using the beaches, if you will, the barrier islands, as kind of like a truck stop. You know, just stopping there to refuel, rest just a little bit. And so when the dogs or people chase them, then they're not getting their rest. They'll be tired, and then they fly on to another barrier or try to fly to another barrier island, and many times they can't make it, and they will die because they're trying to rest. And so a lot of people, we probably have all seen it. The dogs go chasing through the birds, and it looks cute and everything, but it's actually detrimental to those birds. So we're just involved in all kinds of things. Let me just give you a rundown on some of the things that we accomplished last year. We did over 5,400 adoptions. We did about just shy of 13,000 surgeries. Our clinic is an American Animal Hospital Association accredited clinic. We're the only, and we basically refer to that in the veterinary world as AHA, American Animal Hospital Association. We are the only combined animal shelter and clinic that has earned the AHA accreditation in the entire southeastern United States. That's quite an accomplishment. Our first accreditation period was 2 years, I believe, and then we were just reaccredited last Thursday successfully, and that was for an additional 3 years. So a lot of the credentials is very important to us, and we're very, very proud of it. So to answer your question, that was a long answer to your question, but to answer your question, it's what is it like to be me? I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to work in an organization that is so highly thought of and respected, and has its roots so deep across the entire Charleston County community, and that so many people in other organizations, animal sheltering organizations especially, depend on us. We just launched last year, fully launched, one of the boldest animal rescue initiatives ever undertaken in the United States. Some will tell you that it is the boldest one at a grassroots level, and that is No Kill South Carolina. And so what we're trying to do is to help communities across South Carolina strive towards building their no-kill community. And we will actually, mentor them, coach them, work with them, stand shoulder to shoulder with them as they attempt to do this, like Charleston did. And back in 2008, I believe it was, or 2007 or 2008, the live release of canines and felines, dogs and cats, was only about 37%. Wasn't very much in our community of Charleston County. Now it's over 90%, has been consistent with that over 4 years. So it's, if we can do it here in both an urban and a rural community, we feel like any place in the South can do it, as long as the resources are there. And like I mentioned, clearly canines and felines are the most at-risk animals because of the sheer prevalence of them and the overpopulation of them. But Charleston Animal Society didn't get into animal sheltering until probably the middle part of the 20th century. And it was founded in 1874 specifically to prevent cruelty to animals, with a focus on livestock, equines, that type of thing, that type of animal, like the other SPCAs, if you will, around the country at the time. And it was very much after that, probably 50 or 60 years after that, or maybe even more, that the Animal Society actually got into animal sheltering. And the reason it did was because the local dog pound, if you will, was so horrific for animals that to prevent cruelty to animals, the Animal Society got involved in sheltering those animals and attempting to save those animals. And so it's come a very, very long way. But as we like to say here, it's every single person in this community is Charleston Animal Society. You're Quintin, you are Charleston Animal Society. It's not about anybody that's here. It's not about me. It's not about our board. We have a constituency of people involved, and we typically call our supporters those that give a gift of their homes, meaning they adopt an animal that's homeless, those that give a gift of their time, meaning they volunteer, or those that give a gift of their income, meaning they're financial contributors. That's basically whom we're talking about. Okay. And we have a constituency on an annual basis each year of about, anywhere from about 35 to 45,000 people, and then in terms of the people that we actually reach in some way or another, it's about 50 to 60,000 people. The other thing is that, and this is something we like to say, is last year we placed our hands on about 17,000 to 18,000 different animals in some type of service or treatment, whether it was feeding those animals. Most of those animals we provided some type of medical treatment to, with only about 8,500 getting into the shelter, because we want to keep as many animals out of the shelter and into their homes as possible. We have a program called Pets for Life where we go out in the communities, mostly in North Charleston, and we help animals stay with their families. So if a family comes in and to give up their animal, if you will, our first question really is, Quintin, do you want to keep your animal? And if you do, we take all kinds of measures to help you keep your animal. Many times it's just they can't afford the medical treatment for it. They may not can afford the food for it, for whatever reasons, and we're non-judgmental. We really don't care what your reason is. That's really none of our business. Okay. If you want to keep your animal, we want to take every measure to help you keep your animal. When it comes to animal cruelty, most of our efforts are in education. We actually work with about 16,000 school children each year, and about 500 adults, and trying to help them take better care of their animals, because we don't want it to become cruelty, but when it is intentional, when it's intentional cruelty, then we work very closely with law enforcement, and law enforcement has the solicitor's office, etc., and we have to be very factual about what we do and everything in order for us to have that kind of relationship and be involved in those investigations within our system of justice.
Yeah. The big news is this, and I was just thinking about this. It's an ongoing battle between the Charleston Animal Society and the horse carriages companies in the city. If you were to sit down with one of the carriage company owners in the city, what would be your first question to them?
First question, and we've asked this. First question is, will you participate in an independent scientific study conducted by an academic institution to finally put for rest this controversial issue of working horses, equids, if you will, in Charleston? We do that, and that's a yes or no type question. That would be the first question. And the reason I say that, and this is very, very important, we've said this from the outset, is that Charleston Animal Society has a position for 2 years now, I believe it is. 2 years. That the Animal Society is not against working horses, and we've been very consistent with that, or working animals for that matter. In fact, we celebrate a number of working animals. Therapy dogs are working animals. Animals, in fact, the cover for our latest magazine right here celebrates dogs working with the military. We have a very close relationship with the military, very close relationship. And so we celebrate that, provided that the working conditions and the environment are humane. And that has been our position. Now, based on an investigation that we launched leading up to that position statement 2 years ago, so probably 2.5 years ago, is that we feel the conditions in Charleston for those working animals, the system is not humane, okay? And this is very, very important, Quintin, is that the Animal Society, and I am the spokesperson for the Animal Society, okay? I have never, ever called a carriage horse company or a carriage horse employee an animal abuser. Never. And there's no way that anyone can document that because it has never happened. What we have said is that the system is inhumane, okay? The system. And the system, the only way to inform all of us is through an independent scientific study, because there's never been one done on carriage horses. Excuse me, let me say this. Back about 15 to 20 years ago or so,
Okay.
City Council for the city of Charleston, out of its concern for the working horses, adopted an ordinance, put in place a committee, and asked Charleston Animal Society, which at that time was John Ancrum,
Right.
SBC, you probably remember that,
Right.
asked the Animal Society to be a part of that process. The Animal Society was a part of that process for its 3 years. The recommendations from that committee led to the current ordinance, which has been in place for over 10 years.
Okay.
And so based on the number of complaints that we were getting consistently from residents, from tourists, from City of Charleston employees, from former carriage horse employees about the system and everything, we started looking into it. And as we started looking into it, we discovered major provisions of the ordinance were not being followed. The factors that led us to state that the system
Okay.
is inhumane, not the people, the system. There's a big difference.
Okay.
Is that we felt the heat was too high. We felt the load was too much. We felt the prevalence of incident reports stating that the equids, meaning the horses and the mules, were over and over again spooked as leading to the incident. The non-compliance with many provisions of the ordinance and the blatant non-enforcement by the city. Those 5 factors led our board to unanimously adopt that position statement that we're not against working animals, provided it's done humanely, but the system, because of those 5 things, make it inhumane. Now, that has led to a very nasty backlash on us by the carriage horse industry and and a process that has undermined and sabotaged what we're trying to advance, and that has been conducted by the City of Charleston Tourism Department. So we could have done, and we don't conduct studies. We've participated in a number of scientific studies, but we don't conduct them. Universities conduct studies. So a lot of the language out there is just so misleading and false. And that's when we tend to stick to the facts. Let's tend to stick to the facts, and we put it in print. We put it, we published the largest animal magazine in South Carolina, pet circulated magazine in South Carolina, Carolina Tales. And so we put our statements out there. We put it out there. Will we run a full page ad? Yeah, we put it all out there.
Okay.
We're not into doing, let's go back and forth in social media and that kind of thing. Now, have we put our statements and things in social media, on our positions, that kind of thing, videos? Yes, we have, and all. Here's something else, too, to keep in mind.
Okay.
Poll after poll. And a lot of people discount polls and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But when you have polls conducted by so many different outlets, Charleston Magazine, Post and Courier, Channel 2, Channel 4, this latest poll from the horseaholic.com. I've never even heard of that website, but it touts itself as a horse lover's website worldwide. And time again, they're posing questions, you know, are you for or against the carriage horses? And they don't give the option of, like we're trying to navigate the middle ground, so to speak. They don't give that option. It's just black or white. Are you for or against it? Overwhelmingly, people are saying they're against it. Now, a lot of stuff in social media, which a lot of folks are pointing at us, it's not us. We can't control social media. When you have a video from last week's incident that went viral, over 12 million people, I don't even know what it is now, but over 12 million people have seen it and everything like that worldwide. To think that we control, I can't control that, how people respond to that kind of thing. However, when I look at carriage horse company owners and carriage horse employees launching the kind of organized attack and smear campaign on this organization, this community institution of 143 years, this most honored charity in South Carolina, 5 years in a row. It's just despicable. Here's one from, and this is the kind of thing that we see, and if you see the tweeting of, I'm not sure if your camera can pick that up, but basically this is from a John Polk with he's a tour guide for one of the carriage horse companies, and it's hashtag suck a blank Joe, directed to me. When you have all of these banners issued by Charleston Carriage Horse Associates or whatever the group is, but them being touted by one of the carriage horse family owners, taunting that organization, that doesn't help. And Ben Doyle has made some of the most nasty comments about us and everything. I've never criticized Ben Doyle. I know Ben Doyle, but constantly criticizing us and everything. When you have Tom Doyle, the owner, calling us thieves, calling Charleston Animal Society thieves, it's just like, and the paper in his letter to the editor, many more people are injured for every dog adopted through the Animal Society's ambassador program than are injured in any kind of carriage incident. Well, that's just untrue. That's just crazy. There's this, no kill is another fallacy, and you see the attempts to distract from the issue. The issue that we've been focused on is let's reform the system. Let's not ban it. Let's reform it, okay? And the way to inform it is have an independent scientific study done. If the scientific study comes back and says, well, hey, everything's just perfect in Charleston, the horses aren't distressed, the horses are stressed to an appropriate level and everything, that's fine. We'd have to live with that and everything. Could we, pet helpers, other animal organizations that have been in this for a very, very long time, come together and create a set of parameters and say, these are the parameters that you need to follow because this is what we deem as humane? It would be arbitrary. It would not be scientific. It would be arbitrary. But this, so Tom Doyle distracted from the issue. And I'm not criticizing Tom Doyle. I'm saying, this is a distraction. No kill is another fallacy. This is a goal, not a reality. Reality is that an animal stands a better chance of leaving my carriage company alive than it does at the CAS. That's a distraction. That's a smear. Here's one from Benjamin Doyle. Get real, you pigs. Think about how pathetic you look. From Tom Doyle. These thieves are fleecing the Charleston community. And it just goes on. It just goes on. And the things about, here's another one from Ben Doyle. The reason being, the reason being more than half of every dollar goes to administrative cost salaries. That is just untrue. Our audits are up there, and I'll tell you,
okay,
you couldn't get Charity Navigators, the largest watchdog of charities in the nation, their top rating of 4 stars. There are 2 large watchdog organizations for charities. The other one is GuideStar. Their top rating is platinum, and we also have that. Better Business Bureau, we're accredited, and we have an A+, the highest rating on that. You couldn't get all of that if this kind of stuff is true. So hustling some more money, exploiting for money, but they don't address the issue, and that is the working conditions of the animals. So it's things like that, and I'll tell you, one of the most disturbing things is, well, here's another one from Benjamin Doyle, is this: you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. And yet, it's out in the paper and everything today as, Ben Doyle calling on, it needs to stop. The comments in the social media need to stop. Well, stop them, because they're all coming from you. So this is the kind of stuff that we don't engage in. And we refute that. It's if anybody engages it under our name,
Okay.
I have come out
Okay.
and condemned it. There was an incident, I think, back about a week or two ago on a Sunday, and a woman was down there. Now, keep in mind, Quintin, we have over 4,000 people who volunteer for this organization. Over 4,000. Some of them I wouldn't even recognize because of the sheer number of them. It's a community institution, this is.
Okay.
So the person was harassing passengers and people down there on the carriage horses rides, and during that episode, she said something. I work for Charleston Animal Society. I came out on Monday with a press release. We don't condone those tactics. We don't encourage them. We don't authorize them. The person is not an employee of Charleston Animal Society, has never been an employee of Charleston Animal Society. Had that person been employed by Charleston Animal Society, I would have fired that person for doing that. I've already instructed, a year ago or so, I've already instructed our staff, no matter what is thrown at us, no matter what kind of mud and nastiness is thrown at us, when we're called pigs and scum and villains, when we're called that, do not respond. Do not respond. Do not stoop to that kind of nastiness, so to speak.